Hello. Welcome to Moneyball Part 2. Didn't expect to be here. Didn't expect to see you. But today we're going to go over both methodology as well as a simulation of all the players that we found that are really good and eligible Moneyball players that you guys asked to see in my spreadsheets. I know you guys really want my Excel spreadsheets. On top of that, we're going to go down through the board, which I left up this whole time. Never changed, never erased the board. And I need to erase the board. I need space to write other stuff. So we're going to go through the math. I'm going to go through my explanation of everything that I did. And then we're going to get to the simulation. And then you'll get a nice little part 2, an extension of what we had done. So you can actually see what this team that we built can become post our World Series championship. The first thing to talk about amongst many is where do you start when you're building a Moneyball simulation of your own? And what I did was originally essentially go after the exact lines of dialogue from the movie.
Because he gets on base.
He gets on base. That's all you need to know. He gets on base. And so we were building this based off the idea of on base percentage being our primary focus in regards to how to build a team using Moneyball. And I think a lot of people know that already. And so most Moneyball rebuilds just go straight to on-base percentage. But how do you calculate exactly what the on-base percentage goal should be in order to create a simulation that depicts a team that is supposed to be winning? In the movie, there's a couple different aspects to the simulation, and we talked about them a little bit in the beginning of last video. I know I saw the comments that the chalk style font was not really great, so I'll make sure to change that for this future one. But when we break down this, essentially to start, you have three things you got to focus on: wins, runs, and runs allowed. And then I guess money, technically, it's in the name. But when it comes down to it, we had to first start and evaluate how many wins that we had. And in that, the first thing that I did is I looked at the last 4 seasons, or 3 seasons technically, in which we looked at which teams were the median and what playoff teams were going to get in to give us a target for how many wins we needed to make the playoffs. Why did I choose the last 3 years? When you really think about it, the big thing about choosing a goal amount of wins that you need to do is to know your competition. And over the last 25 years, we've seen a lot of changes to the playoff format. I mean, 2020 had one where we had 8 teams on both sides. Good thing this isn't 2020. Since 2022, we've moved to 7 teams making the playoffs, aka 3 wildcard teams. That lowers the bar a lot from where they were in 2002 when the movie originally started. They had a goal of 99 wins in 2002. Because of the wild cards that we have, the new extra slots that we have able to make the postseason, the median amount of wins from 2022 to 2024, which I know is a very small sample size, is only 92 wins. So just give us a little bit of room for error. 95 wins is a good target. With 95 wins as a target, that gives us a way to actually measure how much above average we need to be in order to be able to make the postseason. So first thing, we have to calculate then the average, but then take our 95, basically 95 over 162 versus 81 over 162, to figure out what the difference is between the two, to figure out then how much better we need to be than average in order to be able to make it to the postseason. This is where our spreadsheets and our math actually come into play. The first thing that we have to think about is what the actual equation is that we are going to use to calculate the factors that go into play. And Paul DePodesta actually created a variation of this equation back in 2001 that we can find to be able to measure up what they did in 2002 with the A's. And what that was a constant plus basically a variable. B1 is how we labeled it, times batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. Those 3 variables depicted how you could get runs scored. And inversely, opponent's batting average, opponent's on-base percentage, and opponent's slugging percentage was how you could calculate runs allowed. Now, first we use that in order to create an equation, and you'll find the math here. You have the B3, B2, and B1 to create those variables to give us that equation. Our first one ended up being not necessarily perfect. And the problem for that was because batting average and on base percentage basically double count hits, because batting average is all about hits and on base percentage is hits plus walks. And Paul DePodesta knew this as well. He removed batting average as well, so the original equation had to remove that for us. That's how we came up with what became our RCS equation. Here's the board. Now, this isn't perfect. I hope that the font's actually easy to read because it's dry erase marker, like it's not going to be perfect, and I know there's glare because I have screens and lights and all this reflecting off of this. But essentially, we have our runs scored equation that we started with, our C plus B1 times batting average, on base percentage, and slugging percentage, removing the batting average to move down to here. What the variables on the spreadsheet gave us was an equation of 713.21 plus 2,169.66 times on base percentage, plus 1,857.54 times slugging percentage. That's a large number, but they're just variables and constants that we're using to multiply plus the array of data that you're going to get when you're actually calculating out any individual player. This works out to get us an average. We used the spreadsheet to find out what the average was. Using the last 4 years of data, you can see we have 721.68 runs scored. That gives us the runs scored average. Then we can use the batting average number and the slugging percentage and the on-base percentage, and those numbers plugged in will give us the average score that should give us a goal of what players should be at. You can see on the board, I actually went through this. So this was behind me the whole time, by the way. We had all this with the runs scored to create our run differential to know the advantage we were going to have above average when it came to wins. That, when you plug in your average run score, timing that, extra bonus percentage on top of it, gives you to a total run scored of 784.04. Plugging that in to runs scored over here on our equation, and then moving everything over, that means our target RCS score was 1,497.25 to hit the target for our individual players. Now, I never mention this, right? I never say we need to have 1,497.25 because what does that even mean in the grand scale of individual players? And that's where the spreadsheet came in. What I did is I took every single Major League Baseball player who got at bats in 2024, and I plugged in their data from games played to WAR, batting average, slugging percentage, on base, OPS. It didn't matter. I plugged in all of that in order to come up with their RCS scores so I could measure them against each other. And you get a lot of the usual suspects near the top. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, Bobby Witt Jr., Rhys Hines. Yeah, there's some problems with it. Now, Rhys Hines actually is not a good example of this, but what it came down to is I was running into problems with this. Just by measuring RCS score, I'm losing a variable that comes into one of the key aspects of what we're doing here. Moneyball. And the worst thing about Moneyball? Finding how much money everybody makes. This took me the longest. There is no easily attributable plug in salaries in here into a spreadsheet in order to be able to figure out what every single player in Major League Baseball makes. In fact, you go to Spot Track, you go to USA Today, you go to all of these different things, and the spreadsheets are just wrong. They're inaccurate. They don't actually have the correct salaries. They're missing players. They don't have everybody. And so some guys are attributed with the wrong salaries. And so you're just kind of like stuck trying to make sure that the money is as close as possible. And so after finding at least something to be able to use, I plugged in all the salaries and then went through and fixed a majority of them that I could because there were some problems with it. Found a website that did have at least an Excel file that I could dump in all of the salary data from 2011 to 2024, and I got every single player that was in there. And you can see I have it sorted right here by team and year and all that, and alphabetical order, not necessarily money amount. The thing with that is that this is just the opening day salaries they had. So anybody who gets signed on a day, I don't know, the second day of the season, they're not on here. And this was really noticeable with a guy like Jose Iglesias, who was really, really good last year for the Mets. wasn't on here at all because he didn't get signed until a little bit later into the season. This also is important because a lot of the best value players you get are AAA players who get called up midway through the season. Those guys don't have salaries. And so I went into the spreadsheet, plugged in data, tried to get all the salaries as close as possible. I had to put in filters, remove zeros. There's guys who have NA, get rid of that. Make sure that they have an actual salary input. And for some of them, there are guys who had really, really good RCS scores when I wasn't valuing by, salary. So I had to go find it individually and input them one by one. But enough of my salary tangent. Essentially, what we got into is then after I inputted the salaries and got as many as possible, basically when I started inputting them into position players, if they had negative WAR or they had, an OPS that was really low, I didn't even worry about putting their salary in because they weren't going to really come in. They weren't going to be value. It didn't matter. So I wasn't going to get them. So there's a lot of guys on the spreadsheet that don't have data because I know I'm not going to use them. But with this, what I then had to calculate is how do I evaluate RCS versus the dollar amount? There was a couple different methods of doing so. The first one is just taking RCS divided by millions. This gives me pretty much a direct, attribution of how much RCS score they have per $1 million. It doesn't work to the 1497 amount that we calculated, but it gives me kind of an exponential scale to at least rate guys from the top to the bottom how much RCS per million they have. And it's great until you find that all of the guys who get paid a lot of money are on the bottom of the list. Essentially, their RCS per million is at the lowest. I found this out with Tyler Fitzgerald was actually the example because the data number that I had was wrong. It said he made $38,000. And so it was like, Tyler Fitzgerald's the greatest player of all time, bar none, nobody better than Aaron Judge. I knew that wasn't true. And when I scroll down to the bottom and Aaron Judge is on the bottom, clearly that data point doesn't work. But I can use it a little bit to compare a little bit of players, so I didn't use RCS per million. That led us to a different stat, WAR dollars. For those of you who don't know what a WAR dollar is, essentially it is an evaluated statistic by the Major League Baseball Association or by GMs is to essentially create a value amount of $1 million equivalent to 1 WAR. And players, obviously who have more than 1 WAR, can attribute to however many WAR dollars they are worth. Players with more WAR, especially players who are cheaper, create greater amount of WAR dollars. This gives us a dollar amount to equate for how much money they have. And it gave us back to the regular list. Shohei Ohtani, Gunnar Henderson, Jarren Duran now near the top, Aaron Judge. Problem with WAR dollars is it attributes WAR. I did try RCS divided by WAR dollars, and I left this in, by the way, so that you can try it and use it yourself if you want to. But once again, it's evaluating WAR. That's not what we're looking for. And trust me, I'm sitting here this whole time being like, how can I find the one number that we need to actually calculate what a player's value is? And so I got to thinking, is there any stats that players are actually being evaluated by one number? There are two that I really can think of, WRC plus and OPS plus. Those are really two good statistics that measure players on a one number for their hitting ability in a comparison across the league with an average of 100. Very simple number to figure out what the average is, and we know that we're looking for a certain number above average to be able to create what we're looking for. The problem is, I have a limitation using MLB the Show. It's very simple. MLB the Show doesn't have OPS plus or WRC plus. They do have a runs scored or a runs created number, but I can't really calculate that if I don't have all the data. They don't have WRC plus, and I understand why. They don't have the weighted runs because fields don't matter in the simulation. We don't have to worry about Coors Field. We don't have to worry about Petco Park or PNC or any of these. We don't have to worry about the actual field factor. What we have to think about then is how does it work out for players? Because we don't have OPS plus, which, by the way, MLB the Show, SDS, give me OPS plus. That'd be so cool and so easy to build teams if I had OPS plus. And so once again, we're back to the drawing board. However, this time I had a thought. WRC plus is a perfect stat, really, to use this because it actually calculates using batting average, on base percentage, and slugging percentage. We don't have we're not using batting average. We don't have the weighted part. But what I could do is create RCS plus to average things out across the league. And RCS plus was so good of a stat that it's literally rated in the exact same order as the major leagues, minus the variables of the weighted parks. When you went to it, the top guys on the board, once again, Aaron Judge, Gunnar Henderson, Shohei Ohtani, Rhys Hines. Why does he keep showing up? And the other factor I thought to remove is how do we get and make a more realistic depiction of the dollar amount, not necessarily using millions, but trying to lessen the variables of how much a million really is. And we just decided to instead use log-based millions. That helped me really shrink down the gap between $40 million and $300,000. And so we started to get a more realistic depiction of which guys had really high RCSs divided by a more accurate depiction of money. Aaron Judge is still going to be low on this RCS for log-based millions, but we know that. And he's still actually pretty high on it, ranking about, I think, like 10th on my list. But Rhys Hines, Emmanuel Rivera, Alex Call, Pavin Smith, Matt Wallner, Kerry Carpenter, we're starting to get somewhere now with players that have actual value. Also, Shohei Ohtani has got a $2 million salary. So, he's always at the top. He doesn't make $2 million. But once again, how do I get this down to one number? And my thought was, how can we break these guys apart? Aaron Judge is in a $40 million bracket. We really should separate these guys in tiers of money. Guys on salary floor, they're making the minimum salary. These are the guys that we're getting the renewable, and we're signing them to $780,000 a year every year. This is a group of players that is going to be incredibly cheap. They're also generally going to have a different level of value than an Aaron Judge. Their RCS per million is always going to be really high, even if they're not good. So we need to make sure to depict this correctly. What I did is create salary tiers and then create a percentile list using tiered scores of our RCS within each of those categories, and that's where we found the peak players on our list. This is how I found players. You'll find that for each salary tier, high salary, mid salary, low salary, salary floor, we have one player that's in the 100th percentile. These are the best players at each level of their dollar amount. Rhys Hines is up here. I want to note, I keep saying his name, he's an extremely small sample size. That's why his data point is so high. I didn't sign him because I was afraid he actually wasn't that good. There were some other guys I took instead. I valued this, but I took everything with a grain of salt. But you can see, now Aaron Judge is at the top. That makes sense. Kyle Tucker's at the top. That makes sense. We still get the value of dollar amount. Shohei's at the top, Rhys Hines, and you can see we find players at every category that have value. Brent Rooker's up high. You find Kerry Carpenter up high. We found guys like Wallner, Weston Wilson, Mark Vientos. Well, you're still getting the great players in the top of the league near this top of this list. And by using this percentile scale, I knew which guys were good and which guys were bad because I could just scale it by color. This is how we found the players that we wanted. I took the RCS tiers and all this to find the teams and the players that we got, which is why we went out and signed Weston Wilson and traded for Nathan Lucas and traded for Wagner and all of these guys that we ended up getting in the lineup early on. These players were near the top of this list, and this was really easy to plug in. Essentially, I just used this equation, plugged in their on-base percentage, their slugging percentage, and got a score, and then did all the formulas for me in Excel. That's all we need to do in order to be able to get the data for guys that currently have stats. MLB the Show cannot plug in data into an Excel spreadsheet. It's not on PC. It's only on console. So I have to do this manually. Now, not plugging in every single player, so I have to find out what gets me 1,497.2. But for any of you who have done multivariate linear regression, which I doubt is anybody here, maybe it is you. I shouldn't doubt you. I apologize. Essentially, you're not going to get a single number to make this work. So you get two numbers. You get a slugging percentage and an on base. We know what's average, 405 and 315 for on base and slugging. said that backwards. But when it comes down to it, essentially then you can plug in a variation of numbers to get this. What I did is I plugged in, because we wanted to focus on base percentage because it's Moneyball, I plugged in 405 for slugging percentage to figure out just what number would get me back the correct on base. After putting in the average for slugging, all that, and taking the division out, we got a 343. That was what the on-base percentage ended up being once you plugged in an average slugging percentage into our equation. That's not perfect. I'm telling you it's not perfect. Because 343 works if it's average, if we're at a 405 slugging. If we're not, then it's different. If it's below that, I'd say it's going to be pretty hard to find a player that has a 343 on base percentage and below 405 slugging. But essentially, if you're below that in slugging, you need the on base percentage higher. If you're above that in slugging percentage, you can have that below. And so the player I'd like to show that we talked about a little bit was Rob Refsnyder, who we signed in year 2 because he fit this characteristic and description. In 2025, when we signed Refsnyder, he had a 341 on base percentage, technically just a little bit below what we needed. So I had to actually run the equation. Let's show what that looked like. I'm erasing the board. Don't bother me. So we have our equation that we were looking for, 2,169.66 times on base percentage. In this case, it's 341. We have his slugging percentage as well, plus, oh my God, brain, 1,857.54 his slugging percentage, which was 4,418. Once you plug that number in, you get 1,000 marker. 1,516. That is higher than 1,497. That player is eligible. Yes, I cut away to do the math on a calculator. I don't know how to do that in my head. But if a player just has above 343, you don't have to do the math. You're above that already. You have the metric. You're going to be at 1,497 if they're at 343 or higher. So in 2026, you don't have to worry about it. Technically, we could have kept him back, but I needed to save money because we were short, so that's why we got rid of him. And it wouldn't have mattered if we kept him. He was better than Conine. It was actually a bad decision. And the math showed us that was a bad decision to get Conine over Refsnyder. But it worked out for us because the rest of our team was good enough. And so that's how you end up finding your bats. You can go through this and essentially find some players that you have value. I could sort this by salary tier and say, hey, I only want to look at salary floor guys. I don't have any money to spend. I need $740,000 contracts. Resigns Alex Call, Emmanuel Rivera, Matt Wallner, Pavin Smith, Weston Wilson, Nathan Lucas, Jonah Bride, Eric Haase, Christian Betancourt. All these guys end up being good. They're in my green area, which means that we are basically in the above average. You can actually see that like Junior Caminero technically is below RCS plus. So we actually wouldn't want to pursue a guy like that. But, you know, you use the RCS plus the tiered RCS score to help calculate what types of players you want. You have a little bit more money to spend. Maybe we're not going to go salary floor. Maybe we'll go low salary. Get a guy that's under $3 million. This is where, I mean, Shohei's there, but why Kerry Carpenter and Brent Rooker are some of the best players you can get in the game. Look at Refsnyder, Tyler Fitzgerald. Guys I mentioned before being really, really good players. Refsnyder, we didn't have to, like, we got that production from MLB the Show. We could have signed him right away. Proof that he was good in 2024 and would have been valuable enough to be able to be on that team. That's good enough. We have the content and the production from there. That gives us bats, right? So we're focused on base percentage, essentially. We have this. Also, I did sort this and remove any player under 20 games and under a certain amount of, plate appearances, because I didn't want guys at 0 or with 10 games that had really, really good numbers. Reese Hines always shows up in here because he has such a low, a low amount of games played. 24 games, but he met my metric. He had over 50 plate appearances and over 20, and he was good in those. Look at 1,000 OPS. He's not a 1,000 OPS player. You have to take it with a grain of salt. So Matt Wallner with 75 games and over 200, that's more believable. Wilson Lucas, those are low, but I also know these guys are good. I just don't have to worry about it. So Lucas is a little bit riskier, whereas a guy like Wilson is a little bit safer, and Wallner is the safest of all these players. That gives us bats. Pitching is a little bit harder to evaluate. So how we find a guy like Cody Bradford works a little bit differently. The equation requires on-base percentage and OPS and slugging and all this, and we don't have that. So we got to make it up. We're straight up making up this portion, no longer within the bounds of Paul DePodesta and Moneyball. Whip, to me, is the best depiction of this because it's walks and hits, which is kind of the opposite of on-base percentage. And, you lose slugging percentage and all that, but it's the most accurate depiction of this perfectly, and it doesn't work in the equation. So the only thing you can do with it is calculate it via the metric of the percentage above again we're talking about. We found our run differential, all this. So that's how we got to 659 runs being our goal. And once you plug that percentage in and times it by the average whip, which I used once again the last 3 years of data, or 4 years of data of pitchers, plugged all that in, found that the average was 128, and plugged in our below average to get our run differential to find 117 for the target whip. And so the spreadsheet once again tells the same story. We're looking at plugging in every single player, getting their, I need to know who's a starter, who's a reliever. I need to know how many innings they pitched. I need to know what their whip is, what their ERA was, what their FIP was. I just put that in because I like it. Strikeouts, innings pitched. And then we had to plug in their salaries, which from the same spreadsheet that I used before, missing data. Relievers gets picked up from AAA all the time, gets signed in the middle of the season all the time. So they have even less guys to worry about. And then I plug in WAR. WAR helps me kind of give a little bit of an evaluation if a pitcher is good or not, if it's even worth my time. But once you plug in that data, once again, you find that the best players are near the top. Emmanuel Clase is the best pitcher in all of baseball last year. 100% guarantee whip, he's on top. Skubal, very high on the list for starters. You're not going to get Skubal, realistically. He's too good. So we have to start putting in the characteristics again, using the salaries, all that with whip. It's a little bit easier, but there's a bit of a problem with the salaries once again, because there's no target goal. If I just sort by whip, I'm going to get a variation of players. You get Clase near the top, Danny Coulomb is near the top, Jesus Tinoco is near the top, Hudson. You get a lot of guys up here. Most of them are relievers, because relievers have less innings to pitch, less chances to make mistakes, a lot of that. That's only going to give me relievers on here. And I have to categorize by innings pitched again, because there are guys who have pitched 1 inning and end up being on our list. Once you plug in all of that, though, you can start to organize once again the same way. I did this after doing bats, meaning I already had the ideas of what we were doing. We took the basically RCS plus in this one, but a percentage above league average this time, because I don't have an RCS. I have a whip total, which was 1.17, and that helps me come up with a percentage above average in the league. Once again, near the top, you find Emmanuel Clase, Danny Coulomb, the guys that you would expect to be there. But I had to plug in the salaries, and we had to do the tiers again, which I did. I tried to do this a little differently, because starters and relievers, they're in 2 different tiers. The money they make does not match. Everything in my pitcher equation is taken with a grain of salt. So you would sort it by, let's say, reliever, to find the guys we have, so we're only organizing by relievers. I can sort by whip right now to know which guys are there, or I can sort by the percentage above league average. This helps me just get an idea of what guys are all available, and I can see what guys are here near the top. This is just going to give me good targets, and we use this. We got Jesus Tinoco. That's a pitcher that I found. You can see Tyson Miller here, Edwin Uceda, who we ended up going and get. A lot of guys who end up being really productive all the time are near the top of this list, and they also work in different ways. I then chose a surplus value amount as an equation by giving an expected value, basically targeting what they would make based on the average salary of a pitcher plus their league average. So use the expected value here in order to calculate this by using their average salary there. Once I've done this and used the average salary of the league times the percentage above the league average to get the expected value, I could then take their salary in and come up with a surplus value here. This surplus value has a problem. Guys don't have salaries listed. So we go down here to find the cheapest players that we can, the guys who are near the top. Once again, the same guys show up. Exactly the same pitchers. We're in the same position, just with guys who now have their salaries listed to find the cheap guys. Essentially, we're in the same thing. All these guys are salary floor, minimum salary pitchers. That's what you want to sign. Tyler Holton's a little bit of an exception. You should sign Tyler Holton. You should sign Hunter Gaddis. They fit. You should sign Ryan Yarborough. That's a guy who could do there. Griffin Jacks. And then I think Emmanuel Clase always works. He's always a good depiction of this. But we just went then to the top of this for the guys that don't have salaries listed, because these guys are 100% on minimums that they didn't get signed last year until partially through the year. Tinoco, Hudson, Estevez, all these guys are also really good options. When you sort by starter, it comes up with the same. I kind of ignore the surplus value in this one because I don't think it matters as much. I just look at the salary and say, hey, $25 million, can't afford that. If it's under $1 million, maybe I can. Cody Bradford is the first guy who's right here who makes a lot of sense, 748. There's also the 691,000 here in Bowden Francis, but Bowden Francis, we know, is being valued by the Blue Jays. They like him, so I'm not going to be able to get him. This is the first guy that really shows up at a very cheap value on this list that I could pick up. You can see right here, Robert Gasser, another guy we ended up going and getting. We already had Osvaldo Bido, who I think was on this list as well a little bit. There's a reason I always go get Bailey Ober and why the Twins pitching staff is always really good. This is essentially what we're doing here, just taking this percentage above league average to pick the players. Osvaldo Bido right here, another player that's really, really good. It's pretty simple. Essentially in this category, you're not taking a whole lot of work to find the whip. You're just going and grabbing the players that are undervalued and then using your own basic knowledge. If you haven't heard of the guy, then he's probably not valued by the rest of the league. This gives us our pitching staff. Once you have your pitching staff and your lineup, you can now plug in and use this equation to find any player in MLB the Show using the numbers that we've already found. If you have a different target amount of wins, set a different whip. If you have a different target amount of dollars, go for different categories in dollar amounts that you're seeking out for individual players. You know, if you have more money, if you're the Dodgers, don't be rolling around in the salary floor. You can afford getting guys in mid-tier and high-tier salaries. But this will help you build out a team using methodology that I used. Now, I want to do one thing before we end up getting back to our sim and our rebuild. I want to show what it looks like when you end up building a team of the best players per value at each position in Major League Baseball using our spreadsheet. Before we get into that, let's look at some of your questions and answer some of those that you guys had for me. The first, 72 shouldn't be set in stone every year. This is just a comment that I saw that I think is a good depiction and a good question to ask, even if it's not asked in the form of a question. $72 million was our target number because it is the depiction of the inflation rate to 2025. In MLB the Show, there's no such thing as inflation. In fact, you see deflation. Contracts get smaller over the entirety of your rebuilds, and part of that is due to the minimum contract level in the league. In real MLB, that number goes up almost every year, if not every couple years. In MLB the Show, your minimum contract is always $780,000 you're getting a guy for. So because there's no inflation, I'm not changing $72 million as the minimum amount. That's the same reason why you never change it in year 2 or in the other tiers. If you're setting a goal for Moneyball, leave it at the direct amount. There's no inflation. You don't need to worry about it. The only thing you have in inflation is the actual contracts of your guys, and it's expensive to keep a team together. Drop the Excel spreadsheet and tips. Okay. Spreadsheet is going to be linked below in this. I'll give a shareable version linked below in the description of this video. When it comes to your actual input, if you are looking to do something like this, you just look up equations, essentially. Just plug in everything, create variables, and make sure you have cells with the variables. Or if you want to have a constant, plug it into a cell and then make that cell be the changeable data point. So like, for example, I have the target dollar amount for dollars per war or war dollars. Put that in a cell, make that the equation of the variable inside the Excel spreadsheet, and that will help. What roster did you use? What roster do you use? So I've been using my own roster. It's actually in the vault. You can find it called BigIrrelevant 510. I've been using that for the last couple videos. I understand there's a problem with reusing your own roster because I know a lot of the ratings, but I do have a problem of finding good rosters a lot of times. What I normally do for rebuilds is I just take random rosters that I think look good so that I never know what's going on, and I use it that way. But I have been modifying a lot because I think there's some players or people making rosters that I think just don't watch baseball, and so they don't know what players are good and what players are bad. And also they don't create any variability. There's no fun. There's no like, oh, by the way, we found that Brendan Rodgers was really, really good this time, or Andrew Monasterio was very useful. It's always the same. So mix up your rosters. When it comes to after the draft, I am going to have updated rosters there that I'm going to put in the vault then too, but I'm probably not going to update my rosters until then. And a good just personal question, do you ever play out of the park baseball? I've tried. I think anybody who knows when I'm making content, it takes me a long time to record, and out of the park baseball, because I'm very detail oriented, I tried to make a video last year. I think I was in the sim for like 5 to 6 hours, and I'd gotten through 2 weeks. So I don't think I'll ever be able to make a video because it just take me too long. Time is my only constraint. I can tell you that. It's just time. So when we end up creating our simulation team, I made sure to do the best I could to keep this team under budget. And in so, I made sure that we still are under the $72 million. $71 million creates the best depiction of this simulation. Now, we are grabbing some players that are not necessarily attainable to get, and part of that is due to the fact that some of these guys are just not going to be traded by their teams. So I still went to the top of our charts and got players that we could. Cody Bradford obviously was a guy who we grabbed in the actual rebuild, ends up being depicted as one of the best guys, best values you can get. Bailey Ober is actually ranked above him in whip from last year. Normally you would say he's untouchable by the Twins. We are just going to grab him anyways. Another guy that is like that is Bowden Francis, who's one of the top pitchers entirely, but probably untouchable by the Blue Jays. The guys who are a little bit lower on the list who I still think were going to be possible were Ben Brown and Osvaldo Bido. And when you look at our roster here in the pitching staff, I also grabbed Spencer Turnbull, who was one of these guys who was near there, a little bit older, so I thought maybe more accessible, and Robert Gasser, who might not really get a shot with the Brewers anymore. The bullpen made sure to get the top guys here because they're all cheap. Hunter Gaddis, Danny Colum, Emmanuel Clase. This is probably the one guy who's untouchable, who you would still say, look, he's making $4 million, so you'd have to grab him. Otherwise, the rest of the bullpen is these guys. Brian Hudson near the top of the list, Edwin Uceda near the top of our list, Porter Hodge, Jesus Tinoco, AJ Puck, Tyson Miller. All those guys are near the top of the list as some of the best relievers in all of baseball last year, according to our spreadsheets. When it came to position players and individual positions, I kind of had to pick and choose a little bit. So at catcher, William Contreras is the top-ranked guy in the low salary as well as the salary floor. That's because last year he only made about $2 million. This year he's going to be making $6 million. So he's still a little bit of a limitation. He's one of the more expensive players on the team, but he still produces at a way above league average level as a catcher. And so if you wanted a cheap variation of this, Jacob Stallings is the cheap variation playing for the Rockies this year. Last year he ended with a .357 on base percentage and a .453 slugging. Very small sample size, but really, I guess not even that small. Part of that's due to chorus factor. First base, Jonah Bride. There's not a whole lot of options at first base. Jonah Bride has been a guy who I've been pursuing a lot. He was really good last year in Miami. I'm surprised they traded him for cash. Ends up being really productive for us a lot of times in this. And so he's one who you'd get at first. At second, there's a couple options. Tyler Fitzgerald, who we mentioned, is one of the best RCS scores you can get and was really, really good. Platoon mostly against lefties, though. Ends up being really good there. His on base is actually lower, but his slugging was very, very high, which is really helpful. Jose Iglesias was one that we were able to do. We have at third base, Mark Vientos is really high on the list. David Fry and Weston Wilson, who we all got at third base. Shortstop, I kept Jacob Wilson. Part of that is due to the fact that in my head, let's take the 2025 team. Jacob Wilson would be the number one guy on the list. Like, he is the best guy on the list if you were to take a team from 2025. So, not even worrying, keeping Jacob Wilson. Randall Grichuk, one of the best center fielders, one of the best outfielders that you can get. Last year, he had an on base of 348 and a slugging of 528 in 106 games. Right field, we've got the two best players, I think, that you can totally get, Rooker and Carpenter, plus Wallner and Pavin Smith. This is the lineup. So let's see if this team ends up simulating as good as they look based off of our simulation stats. And so let's just sim the season here and see what we end up getting. Simming our season, autofix, whatever. Let's see what this team would end up doing. Autofix again, autofix. And we'll just kind of see. I mean, this team should end up being really productive. It should end up being a winning team, and you can kind of see that. Guys, the A's just go on winning streaks. Is that? Like, I'm telling you, people think that I'm kind of ridiculous with the amount of win streaks that we get with the A's. Look at this. This is just random 5, 9, 12, 16, 18 wins in a row. 19 wins, by the way. 19 wins in a row. The A's just do this in MLB the Show 25, especially when you're doing this with these rosters. Why did I do that? Why is Kerry Carpenter? Oh, he is. So simming through, I mean, as you look, it's just dominance. Moneyball works. It's no lie, it does. And it's not like we're really putting together a super team. If you were to think about stars that we have on this team, it's Brent Rooker and William Contreras. When it comes to the pitching staff, nobody. I mean, Class A, I guess, technically. But that's about it. Emmanuel Clase is considered a superstar. I think we'd be fine without considering it that. All right, let's bring up two guys. We'll bring up, let's see which ones we want to bring up. Porter Hodge. And I guess Nick can come up. But 107.55, that's all you need. And when it comes down to it, then at the end, you get award winners. Rooker doesn't get one this time, but you can see Bailey Ober in the Cy Young race. Jack Flaherty's a guy who would be on the list. Ohtani always is for everything. But if we look at our actual production from guys, Cody Bradford wasn't great. Ober was pretty good. Ben Brown, this is actually pretty mediocre production. The bullpen was phenomenal, I guess. I mean, the back end, Porter Hodge, Colum, Gaddis, and Clase with a .48 ERA on the season of 62 saves. Breaks the saves record, because of course he does. And let's look at our lineup. Oh, who'd they send down? Iglesias, 287, wasn't great. He's the one who gets sent down. Stallings hit 209, wasn't great. Bride hit 274 with a 338. David Fry, 373 on base percentage. 341 and a 471 for Fitzgerald here. Grichuk, 325 and a 299 slugging. That's crazy low slugging rate. Jacob Wilson, 308, wasn't great. Contreras, 417 on base percentage with a 521 slugging. Rooker, 334 with a 505. Carpenter, 296, 405. Wallner, 384, 487. Vientos, 330, 501. Wilson, 350 with a 425. And Pavin Smith, 344 with a 506. The big part to me about it is that when you end up building this team, it doesn't really matter. They're all going to produce. They're going to produce pretty well. And really, that's all you're looking for when it comes down to this. You don't need a whole lot of production. You just need to, put together a team full of players. We get eliminated by the Yankees. That's a real A's rebuild anyways for you anyways. So if you were to sim it, look, 107 and 55. That's just simulating with the top guys that we had on our list. These are players that are going to be productive, and not every single player performed in this sim. We still get the wins. So this helps. Hopefully that you can use some of these players to benefit. I think what we really should do though right now is get into part 2 of our Moneyball Part 2 rebuild and actually see what the real team has done after our World Series. Thank you very much for the first 2 parts of this. Welcome back to Part 2 of our Moneyball A's rebuild. where we are just going to go beyond where we had finished in our first video. Now, this is obviously a little bit later in the video. This is like 3 videos in one, right? And so one thing I want to note is this isn't going to feel like a regular rebuild. It's not even going to feel like a regular Moneyball rebuild. And part of that is because I already feel like we've succeeded. We've taken our challenge. We did it under the budget, made it to the World Series. We went to our secondary budget tier and then won the World Series with a roster that is full of underdog players, like guys that we don't really hear of. Cody Bradford, Osvaldo Bido, Joey Estes, Valente Belozo, JP Sears, Zebby Matthews, Tyler Wells was our pitching staff, with our best reliever being Tim Herron. When it came to our lineup, Ivan Herrera might have been a little bit much. May have made a mistake on that. Might have been a little unrealistic to go after Ivan Herrera. Probably should have just stuck with Langoliers, but they ended up working out. We won with it. Soderstrom, Geloff, we just kept this team together, plus the guys that we got from our Moneyball, I guess, elements, our methodology, our 343 on base percentage target metric that we did. And the reason we're doing a little bit of an extension is because, well, we won so fast. To win in 3 years with a team that wasn't really competitive whatsoever in year 1 is a shock. In fact, the other part that's a shock is that we won 110 games doing so. It's just proof to me that the method works, bar none, better than anything else you can do in rebuilding a team. Use Moneyball. It works almost every single time. So, because we did this too fast, because this team never really got to see the potential of the players that we have here. I mean, when we talk about it, we drafted guys that we never saw. We never got to see Pedro Sanchez at first base. We never got to see, actually, let me go back to this. Pedro Sanchez at first base. We never got to see, Nathaniel Reynolds here at second base. We've got a bunch of guys, and Willie De La Cruz, never got to see him either. Players that I really like that had a lot of potential and are going to be really, really interesting players to add to a team and a core that is already really productive and young at that. And so what the plan is for me is I'm going to go 5 more years. We're not going to follow the budget. We are not going to make a bunch of moves. I just want to see what this team can do, what these players can become, what Jacob Wilson can do beyond his 3 years that we've had him, what we can see from Tyler Soderstrom as he grows into his own, because this is an MVP with a potential, like 100% it is. And so the question becomes, what can we do? What can we make of this team over the next 5 seasons? Where can we see growth? What players are going to perform? What players are going to succeed? And what stars are we going to make here? What guys are we going to turn into stars? We really only turned Cody Bradford into one. Who else can we do that with? And so with this, we're going to be pretty hands-off. We're going 5 seasons. You can sit back and enjoy as we just kind of build this team. Well, I mean, that we already built, and just see how it performs over the next 5 years now. I'll still make the moves on the margins for Moneyball moves and use the algorithm essentially to find small moves, but we're not making big ones. We're not following the budget anymore. We're just going to go in and see what this team can become. And since I started recording, I think Denzel Clark has turned into an absolute god in the outfield, just as Jacob Wilson has. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to change his rating, otherwise he won't play for us. We're going to move his potential up. And the big thing I want to do is, come on, 71 fielding? How did this game have him at 71 fielding? Or at least, I guess this is my roster, so I really shouldn't complain. 99. Same thing for Jacob Wilson. I mean, I was a little bit more up to date with him. I did actually know he's a really, really good contact back when we started. I didn't know he was going to be hitting 372 like a couple weeks into the season. I'm going to raise his potential as well. I just want to see him grow. I want to see him perform. I want 99 contact to happen from Jacob Wilson. So we're making 2 adjustments to our roster. 2 guys that I think are good core members, that I think A's fans, especially with just the hype behind this roster, People want to see these guys just succeed. And if you're worried about me spending endless amounts of money, I am going to kind of, but only in the sense of paying the guys that we have on the roster. And I just wanted to secure them for the next 5 years to do this. So we did overpay a lot in order to make sure that we did that. And so we are up above the original budget number, but we were, I mean, okay. 61 million makes it look like I had a lot of room. During the offseason, did not at all. We were pressed hard against the budget, wasn't able to do much, and so we literally couldn't even sign guys on minimum contracts. That's how little money we had. So the team going into 2028, our first year post, is exactly the same. It's exactly the same team. Landon Knack is going to be up here though, as he has no more options left, so he has to pitch now. But Landon Knack is going to be up, and I'm willing to wait for Spence and Lynch to be up in the bullpen, but I really like our bullpen. I think it was really good for us last year. Lineup-wise, I brought up Denzel Clark to play in center field. Is he going to be good? I don't know, but it just feels right. You just got to have him play. Pedro could come up at any point. I think I might bring him up some point in the beginning of the season. But if I can, hold on to that contract and say, hey, maybe we wait a little bit longer and continue to play with his eligibility, it will be fine, because I don't have a spot for him right now. There's not exactly a spot he can play. He plays first base and right field. I guess I can put him in right field. It's him or Denzel Clark. If Denzel Clark performs poorly, or if Evan Carter performs poorly, because I'm not really tied down to be like, I have to have Evan Carter. I'd be willing to get rid of him too. But if not, then that's going to be Pedro's spot. But we're going to get into this season, do some scouting, and get into our first year in our part 2 of Moneyball 2028. Since we're doing 5 years, I think it's still appropriate to do our drafts to be able to see what we can build with this team, because we have players and we're going to need to add players on top of the core that we already have, especially I think pitching staff more than anything. Though this draft isn't really going to provide much of that. Not that good of a draft entirely. There are some guys, but, we won the World Series, so we have pick 30. So a guy like Juan Campos here, not going to be available to us. And he could be generational out of the Dominican Republic. The top guy on my board is Luis Rodriguez. Ends up being a shortstop, really high potential. Good overall. It's funny, I don't need a shortstop because we have Jacob Wilson, but still could be a very good player, just even as an asset. And if we're unable to get him, we can get a guy who's basically the same thing, but a little further away. Derek Oakley, also a good shortstop, 89 to 99 potential. Very, very good. And so Rodriguez was taken, so Derek Oakley is going to be our top pick. Isn't really going to be much for a couple of years. Maybe he won't ever actually come up and be anything, but could still be a valuable trade asset. So at the All-Star break, we find ourselves 64-32, leading the way in the AL West, only by 5 games over the Mariners. The team is not as good as it was last year, and a big problem with that is that the offense is just not there. I think one thing with re-signing everybody and just sticking with the same team means that we didn't go out and really capitalize on players that could have fit the system. And so there's a lot of, holes in our offense that we probably should fill, but I have the prospects and the guys that could fill them in the system. So when you go away from Moneyball, this is kind of where you have players where it's like, these guys, I now have the prospects, right? I have Nick Kurtz, who we could bring up. I have Pedro, who we could bring up. I want to play Zach Geloff. They got to play Denzel Clark. They got to play even if they don't provide the value that we want from them. I guess that's kind of the method and why Moneyball works, because that method says, oh, Denzel Clark, does he get on base? No, get rid of him. I don't feel like this has turned into more of an athletics rebuild at this point, where I just want to build this core. So we do have some all-stars. Osvaldo Bido is 15-0 with a 1.59 ERA and a 1.04 WHIP. He's still a Moneyball pitcher. Our pitching staff's still pretty Moneyball. And Osvaldo Bido, 15-0, is crazy. Only 72 strikeouts in those 15 games. That's crazy. Or is it 16? Did he not? He had 4 no decisions. He has 72 strikeouts and only 20 earned runs in the season. For the all-star starter, Brian Hoeing is also an all-star for us. Reliever. I think he actually had to start a game because we had injuries partially through the season, but we have an all-star in the bullpen. It's not Uceda, it's Brian Hoeing. Ivan Herrera is the starter at catcher. I mean, he's sitting 324. And then I believe we also have a starter, or not a starter. Oh, no. I thought Rooker would have made the all-star game. He did not. Okay. So that's it for us then. Our all-stars, Herrera, Hoeing, and Osvaldo Bido. Boom and boom. This is a random guy. I can't believe I spotted him. I think I put him on my other ones. Didn't scout him. Just was like, yeah, he's going to be good. Wow, 97. 96 potential from Derek Oakley. 97 potential from Brian Jew. Another random guy that I got right here in Rex Ridley that I just took a swing at. 90 potential, 18 years old. He doesn't really have any traits that are interesting, but 90 potential. Could trade him for something. The rest of it wasn't that great. Luis Mesa's at least an 85. Could be serviceable. And Kurt Stone, nah. I like the stats he has that are high for a 77 potential. He could actually be a serviceable reliever, even as a C potential. You can make a good bullpen arm out of really, really good hits per 9, walks per 9, and even decent Ks per 9. Luis Rodriguez was a 96 potential, but the Royals got to him first. And surprisingly, that Juan Campos guy wasn't that good. So we end up, I guess, being lucky that we won. Because I guess I never scouted him, so I wouldn't have known. But, we get lucky that they don't get him. Because I think more generational talents in this league, not good. Let me have the talent. I say that as if the Nationals didn't get a generational talent in right field. However, they did just trade away James Wood, so I don't think it matters. I think they made a stupid decision. And apparently there was another one. 2 generational talents in this. Shortstop Fernando Lorenz, never even looked at him once. Seems like the offense caught back up as the season went on, and we are 95 and 46. Continuing the run, I did make a little bit of adjustments, called some guys up, sent some guys down, kind of removed Denzel Clark from the lineup, essentially. And then just went with it that way. Actually played the game with the Moneyball roster instead of being like, oh, well, maybe I'll just skate by putting the players in that are good. No, that's not how it works. You put in guys with on-base percentage. Because the question starts to become, when are you going to regress to the mean? And I would ask, what if the mean is the moon? How can I regress if the mean is above me? Osvaldo Bido gets a Cy Young Award on the season here. I mean, crazy. He was in AAA last year. We had him in AAA last year because he was so bad. He wins the Cy Young the year after leaving AAA. Anthony Santander wins the MVP in the AL. And wow, 21-0, 185. He had 114 strikeouts in the season. So he barely beat Garrett Crochet. 21-0. His rating didn't even go up really that much. 185, just didn't lose. That's only 2.9 more. He just didn't lose games. Wins matter more than anything. Osvaldo Bido is the Cy Young. On the NL side, Shohei Ohtani wins the MVP, 343 and 51 home runs. And the Cy Young goes to Yoshinobu Yamamoto. League leaders, Osvaldo Bido with a 1.85 ERA, a 1,000 winning percentage, 21 wins, and Edwin Uceda getting 53 saves. And your walks leader, Ivan Herrera, as well as the WAR leader with 8.9. On this season, your batting title goes to Luis Arraez, hitting 346 for the Twins this season, just beating out Vladimir Guerrero, and Herrera was sitting there in third. Hits leader, Arraez, once again, 213, beats out Herrera and Guerrero, who had 209 respectively. When it comes then to the rest, doubles 55, Herrera had 52 doubles, and your home run leader, Santander, with 45, who also led in RBIs. Saves leader was Edwin Uceda, who beat out Lucas Erceg, 53 saves on the season. ERA leader Osvaldo Bido with a 1.85. Drew Rasmussen of the Twins was in second with a 2.38. And your strikeout leader was Garrett Crochet with 201. On the NL side, the batting title goes to Shohei Ohtani, hitting 343 on the season. He is injured before the postseason, which means maybe the Dodgers won't be able to make it. Xavier Edwards in second. Hits leader Corbin Carroll with 200 on the season. The Dodgers have Stephen Kwan at 195 in second. Doubles leader, Jackson Chourio, 58. Look at the Brewers right there. And your home runs leader, Shohei Ohtani, once again on the IL. The saves leader on the season was Jeff Hoffman with 48 for the Cincinnati Reds, just beating out Mason Miller with 47 for the St. Louis Cardinals. ERA leader Tony Gonsolin with the 2.34 for the Milwaukee Brewers, and your strikeouts leader Tyler Glasnow with 215. Sent down a few guys for the postseason. Looks like Barucki got sent down with the 2.9 and a pretty low 108 whip in 68 innings. Probably didn't deserve to get sent down. Miguel Castro got sent down as well with a 1.11 ERA. You sent him down with that? Okay. I can see your decision-making skills are great, CPU. When it comes to this, Zebby Matthews didn't play, but probably should have because Landon Knack, 5.69 ERA, 146 whip in a 68 innings. Yeah, he's going back down for the minors, for the postseason, as well as Gasser. He's not going to play. Tinoco, 2.64 with a 1.16 whip. You had a 2.12 with 1.1 for All-Star Brian Hoeing. Tyson Miller, 2.59 with a 0.86 whip. Tim Herron was our worst bullpen arm, 4.08 ERA with a 1.44 whip. Just got us over the hump last year. Probably should have sold him off. Edwin Uceda, 2.86, 1.22. Didn't get reliever of the year, but led in saves with 53. Cody Bradford, 2.9 ERA, 1.12 whip. Another great season from him. Not a lot of strikeouts, but that's the third sub-3 ERA season for Cody Bradford. A little bit worse this year than he was the last two seasons, but still very, very good. Joey Estes, 4.23 at the 1.25. A little bit of regression there, too, from him. Valente Beloza, 3.71 with a 1.22. JP Sears, 3.74 with a 1.25. And Osvaldo Bido finally showing out. Went from minor leagues to a 1.85 ERA in basically 3 seasons. Just fixed the whip. Went back to what he was in 2024 here in 2028. The CPU doesn't like my roster, apparently, because Andrew Monasterio got sent down, hitting 271 with 364 on base percentage. Got 1 home run in 81 games for our shortstop. Daryl Hernandez got sent down, hit 59 games, had over a 344 on base percentage, and never brought Nick Kurtz up because, you know, he was so bad, and he was like hitting 200 in AAA. Like, just wait, what do I need from you? I'm gonna leave him in the minors as long as possible, I guess. Will Wagner got sent down. He was bad, and then Nathan Lucas got sent down. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. When it comes up to our major league lineup, Griffin Conine, 241 on the season, 280. Was still probably a bad decision. I think we should have stuck with Raf Schneider, but I think that's fine. Pedro Sanchez, 305 in his rookie season in not a lot of opportunities because we do have first baseman Tyler Soderstrom and Brent Rooker, who generally has to play DH. We just don't really have a spot for Sanchez right now, so it's hard to get him into the lineup. Next year, we're going to make sure we do. But it's difficult with having Soderstrom being able to really only play first and catcher, and Herrera as an just phenomenal catcher. Where do you put Sanchez? Do you put him in right field? Well, I have Brent Rooker and Lawrence Butler and Evan Carter. Maybe I just move off Evan Carter so that I can give Sanchez a shot. I don't know. Schumann didn't play. Susak didn't play. Denzel Clark, 216, 4 home runs, 269, a 600 OPS. 0.5 WAR because he's so good defensively, but very bad offensive season from him. That's kind of why I trash talked him all year. Jacob Wilson, 258, 16 home runs. Big regression from where he was last season. I still think he'll continue to get better, but I wanted to see more of this than that. Ivan Herrera, 332, 16 home runs on the season and 209 hits. Amazing season from the catcher that we took from the Cardinals. Probably shouldn't have traded him. Maybe a little bit cheeky to do that kind of trade. Weston Wilson, another one of those pickups, 253, was really good this season, but still could get on base a little bit more. I don't know how much time he's got left performing at this level. Apparently a little bit longer. Soderstrom with 33 home runs, a little bit regression from last year where he hit 40. You have 25 from Geloff, who hit 227 on the year. Still got on base over 300, but yeah, yikes. 33 home runs from Lawrence Butler, hitting 250. Evan Carter hit 274 for 10 home runs. And Brent Rooker, 39 home runs, 285 average in 157 games. I think if I had him at DH, he got hurt. So I had to bring him back in. He got hurt for like a week or so missed a couple games. Probably could have hit the 40 home run mark. We had a bye in the first round after winning our division, so we have the Kansas City Royals here in the ALDS. We are going Cody Bradford, Osvaldo Bido, and then Joey Estes for our first 3 games, with Sears and Belozo in Game 4 and Game 5. Cody Bradford versus Cole Reagans in Game 1. We lose that one 1-2. Don't get enough offense in our first game here in Vegas. This is actually technically the first time that we are playing a postseason game in Las Vegas at this point. Osvaldo Bido versus Alec Marsh in Game 2. We win 7-4. Bido never loses. Joey Estes in Game 3 versus Chris Bubich. We lose that one. We are down 2-1 to Kansas City. Sears versus David Shields. We are eliminated by the Kansas City Royals, coming off of our back-to-back World Series appearances. Are unable to take it this time. Kansas City is going to go to the World Series. I actually want to check this out because this is a nice, fun rematch of 2015. Or is it 14? 14. 2014. We're going to sim that one. 1-1 series, 1-2 series, 3-1 series. San Francisco, does not able to get it there. San Francisco defeats the Kansas City Royals in the 2028 World Series. Austin Hayes is your World Series MVP for the San Francisco Giants. Must have been a platoon bat there. Josh Naylor wins the postseason MVP for the Kansas City Royals, and Tyler O'Neill for the San Francisco Giants. Interesting lineup. Tyler O'Neill and Austin Hayes? Okay. Yeah, I think Osvaldo Bido kind of presents a big question for us when it comes to rebuilding this team accurately. Based on like homerism, loyalty, all of this, wanting to keep the A's around, you'd want to stick with him, knowing that statistically he should actually be a good pitcher. However, analytically, I go by the Sam Hinkie mindset of there is no way I am ever going to get production like this from Osvaldo Bido again. This is the peak of his powers right here. He's never going to be better. He lucked into a Cy Young by winning 21 games and not losing a single one. I think, and actually I think if you even look at his FIP, it's good, but like, yeah. I think we should trade him. And I know that it makes sense to keep him because we do need starting pitchers, and it's nice to have a secondary ace behind Cody Bradford because we're going to lose Sears. Estes is going to be gone here soon. Belozo is probably going to start regressing. I think we need to get value for Bido. That's going to be my mindset going into this offseason. What players can I get to build a team so I have some platoon bats to fix the positions that of need, so that way we can still make sure everybody gets their playing time, but also to make sure this pitching staff is ready and that we maximize the asset value of a guy like Osvaldo Bido. And so the trade we're going to make is for Mark Vientos, a player who I think is kind of going to be undervalued this season because he just came off one of his worst career years. I think we can fix this, and I need a third baseman outside of Weston Wilson to play that spot. He was good in 2025 and 2026, but has fallen off a little bit these last 2 years. I'm going to guess based off the 97 games in 2027 that injuries have played a little bit of a part to this. I think we can get him back to 2026. That's actually the production I would expect to see out of him. So I'm going to give up Osvaldo Bido for Mark Vientos. And then now, because we have 2 lefty specialists at third base with Weston Wilson and Mark Vientos, we have Zach Geloff at second, who really can only hit righties. My thought is, let's get another guy in the same vein here with Xavier Edwards. The benefit to Xavier Edwards is he can also play center. Very badly, but he can play center. And with Denzel Clark not being good against lefties, meaning this could be our platoon in the outfield as well. I am going to move off the rest of the guys. He's on his last year of his deal. Miami's a cheap team. They're not going to pay him. So the main prospect they're going to get back in return is I guess they're getting Griffin Conine. I actually am going to swap this just so it's a little bit more fair. We're going to give him Max Muncy. Now, my reason for going after Xavier Edwards with the 1-year deal is that I'm unsure I'm going to be able to sign either of the 2 guys in free agency that I think best fit as outfield platoon bats in Alec Burleson and Jesus Sanchez. Now, Sanchez is the preferred because he can play center field. He'll also hopefully be a little bit younger and just has a little bit more power in his bat. Burleson walks a little bit more, but can only play right and left corner outfielders. That would make Butler have to play center. which I think is okay. I think the lack of defense here is fine, but at that point, don't I just go with Xavier Edwards? We'll see. The whole thing is, I'm not sure I'm going to get either of these guys, but we're going to pursue both of them to fulfill that center field need. And that's still with me being fully aware that Willie De La Cruz could develop in AAA this season and be able to come up right away. So once again, if I don't think it makes sense and it's going to be too expensive, why do I sign a 4-year deal for Jesus Sanchez when I could sign a 1-year deal for Xavier Edwards and then just have Willie take that center field spot after? Okay. Jesus Sanchez will be a platoon outfielder. I was able to get him for 3 years, $13 million, though there's a good chance we will sell him off next season if Willie ends up progressing and can take the center field spot. And our Beto replacement will be a 1-year deal for Bailey Ober. I have the other prospects in the wings ready to come up, but I think Ober could do 1 year for us and be productive before he starts to regress. Starting the 2029 season, we have a team that I think is set up to succeed, especially when it comes down to platoons. Lineup-wise, I'm really excited to see what this team can do. We've got a lot of guys playing in a bunch of different positions to make this the best possible offensive team we can make it. Defensively, we are very, very weak, 24th in defense, but we still do have Denzel Clark and a couple guys that could do this. You can see against righties, technically I should put Sanchez in here instead of Evan Carter. But when you look at our roster, we have a lot of room for pretty much everybody to play very, very well this season. I think with the platoons that we have, I'm excited to see what we can do. Pitching staff's a little weak, and I am fully aware of that. The big part of that is because we have Jared Russ, our second-round pick from 2025, who I think could come up very, very soon. And then I think the even better one is we have Steven Manuel, who could come up, our first-round pick from 2027, who could come up as well very soon. We've got a lot of basically pitchers that I think are just at the edge of being ready, which is part of the reason why when you look at our rotation, Estes has 2 years left here. Gasser is going to be getting his time finally. Zebby is getting his time for the next 4 years. Why we only signed Ober to a 1-year deal. And why I'm also finally going to try out this starting pitcher with the crazy walks per 9 and hits per 9. We're going to try him in the bullpen because he only has 42 stamina. But I'm excited to see what he could possibly do. So that's the team this year. Also, Landon Knack, who I'm giving one more shot to. All stats prove that this dude should be good. I mean, in 2024, he met our metrics. But in AAA, he hasn't played well. And so far, when we brought him up to the majors, he didn't play well last year. We give him about a half year of a chance in order to do it. Let's see if we can repeat and make it and win the AL West for another year here in Las Vegas. Okay, it's okay, but like, we're 11-27. Well, that only took a month. Starting the draft, we finally don't have pick 30, and that means that we'll be able to get something maybe a little bit more mid-tier, and I think later rounds we could possibly get something extra as well. But there isn't a whole lot in this class. Again, most of it is top-heavy. I don't think many of it is going to fall to me. The one that I do think will is starting pitcher Fernando Santiago, a non-ranked pitcher who we have ranked as number 1. Good hits per 9, good walks per 9. I'm going to try to make sure he's not my first pick, but maybe I'll be able to get him with a compensatory pick in the first round. The 3 guys I am debating on picking my first pick with are Kenny Ludwig, a third baseman, 75 to 90 potential, 61 to 76 overall, good power, good defense, not great contact, just will probably hit a lot of home runs. Then we have Mark Kretlow, first baseman, same kind of deal, but with better contact, just going to be an overall good bat. And then Edmundo Saldana, 71 to 86 potential, all around good bat, all around good player too. If he actually is what he looks like, this dude could be a bust. And so with Ludwig and Kretlow gone, that means I have my choice between Saldana and Santiago. And I think the goal is to go position player first. We're going to take the risk. This dude could be a bust, or he could be something otherworldly. I have to take the risk, I think, because we don't really need a lot anymore. Might as well just swing for the fences, and Santiago should still be there with our next pick. Talk about a turnaround. We started off 11-27. We are 58-38, meaning we have been 47-11 since we mentioned and showed the bad start. Honestly, we lost the game after the draft. That was the big difference. All-stars so far this season, looks like no pitchers for us. Cole Ragans is the starter. No relievers. Nope, no relievers for us. Ivan Herrera is the all-star starting catcher for us. I don't know if we're going to have anybody else. I think it might just be him. Yes, so we only get one all-star despite leading the AL West, but I think rightfully so. We probably had since we had such a bad start, not really in a good position to get an all-star. But with that, I will also mention I was unable to get Fernando Santiago. He was not there in the second round, or the compensatory pick of the first round. And so at the trade deadline, I think it's fitting. The Cardinals really don't need Mason Miller. Like, they're in last place. Let's go get him back. Reliever of the year in 2028. We're going to give up 3 prospects, Robbie Nunez, Mason Barnett, and Joe Huerta, to get Mason Miller and add him to the bullpen. In order to facilitate that trade happening, I have to either send somebody down or trade somebody. And Landon Knack is the one that I feel like doesn't fit. He still isn't performing at the level I'm expecting out of him. And I think some other teams could find some value out of him instead. So we are going to trade him for some prospects from the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he wasn't necessarily a bust, but he wasn't really anything special. He will be decent in the major leagues. We took the swing. Probably should have just went for Santiago, but I wanted to take the swing. Figured it made the most sense to do so. So I experimented with the rest of the draft. I really didn't have any other guys on this board scouted that much. And so Todd Schultz, swing, hit. Adrian Pena, swing in the dark, hit. Osborne, swing in the dark, decent. Estrada, miss, but I still like the stats. George Rodriguez, swing, pretty good hit. And Arrojo, swing, decent. So I think we did a pretty good job for basically just swinging in the dark at every single player. And this was Santiago, who is going to be good. Just maybe not as good as I would have thought he would have been, but still will be very good. Also, at the end of that month after the trade deadline, we still haven't lost a game since then. 13 wins in a row. Let me jump in and see if we can just sim and see what we get. Joey Estes versus Richard Lynn. There's 14. Bradford versus Bieber. 15. Ober versus Williams. 16, Matthews versus Cannon. 16. You just go on win streaks. I can't believe this team was 11-27. In the month of September, the magic number is 17. Why 17? That's how many losses we have since the first month of baseball. We are on a 79-17 run. A little bit into the second month of the season, we were 11-27, and after that point, we went on a 98-26 run to make the playoffs, not only as the winner of the division, but to have a 109 win record. And a lot of that comes from the help of Cy Young Award winner Bailey Ober, a mercenary pitcher who we brought in with a Cy Young. We also have Brent Rooker second in MVP. Aaron Judge gets the MVP award, 327, 47 home runs, 119 RBIs. Rooker with 277, 42 home runs, and 110 RBIs. He is on the last year of his deal. We will not be able to re-sign him. He will go off next year somewhere else, but this could be a last chance for him to get another World Series for us. This year, we end up getting the Cy Young for Bailey Ober, 21-4, 334 with 119 strikeouts. He's another pitcher that falls into the category of one of the best types of players you can get. Fantastic stats. He actually wasn't really good in Minnesota the last couple of years. We end up getting a really good deal for him this year. Herrera was runner-up in batting title. And yeah. When it comes to the National League, Shohei wins the MVP over Corbin Carroll with 42 home runs, hitting 293 with 137 RBIs. And Shane McClanahan of the Arizona Diamondbacks wins the Cy Young, 17-6, 3.02 ERA with 189 strikeouts. We have a couple league leaders. Bailey Ober winning percentage, wins, and whip. Wins kind of give us a lot of these awards. But your actual big awards, Xavier Edwards, stolen bases leader, and Ivan Herrera leads in hits. Aaron Judge, hitting .327, gets the batting title, but Herrera beats him out with 207 hits over Luis Arias, now with the Kansas City Royals' 196 hits. When it comes to home runs, your leader was Aaron Judge with 47, beating out Brent Rooker's 42, and his 119 RBIs beat out Rooker's 110, giving Aaron Judge a triple crown. Saves leader was Edwin Diaz of the Boston Red Sox with 53 saves. We had Mason Miller down here in 47 with 47. Probably would have had a lot more if he was on our team the whole time and not with the St. Louis Cardinals, who were much further behind and not many opportunities. When it comes to ERA, Cole Reagans led the way now with the Detroit Tigers with a 2.60 ERA, and the strikeout leader, Garrett Crochet on the Red Sox, 209, followed by 3 Twins and a Tiger. In the NL, your batting title goes to Cody Bellinger, hitting .318 for the Cincinnati Reds. The hits leader, though, was Bryce Durang with 211 hits for the Brewers, followed by William Faulkner, first-round pick from the Reds, with 194. Your home run leader, Shohei Ohtani, with 42, beating out Spencer Torkelson. Ohtani also led in RBIs. Saves leader in the NL was Justin Martinez with 50 saves. Your ERA leader, Shota Imanaga, with the Cubs with a 2.54 ERA, and your strikeout leader, Spencer Strider, with 214. The game sent down Justin Hagenman, somebody who was kind of an experimental piece for us. And once again, we made a really good decision with experiments. 241.92 whip on the season for him. He had 16 total strikeouts. Strikeouts don't matter. If you can get guys out, and he got guys out in boatloads, he will definitely be coming back up for this run. Daniel Lynch with a 306. Belozo came up for 6 innings. I sent him down because he had an option. Gave up 0 runs in those 6 innings he pitched. Tanoko, 177. Hoeing with a 246. Tyson Miller, 239 with a .99 whip. Uceta, 310 with a 116. Still had 31 saves on the season, despite losing the job to, obviously, Mason Miller, 237 with a 107 whip and 47 saves. I think that means that probably we would have had the saves leader had we end up doing that. And Uceta would have had 4 straight seasons over 50 saves. He's probably not very happy about losing the closer role, but sorry, buddy. Cody Bradford leads our way with a 3.32, a 1.13 whip. A good season for him. He started off really, really rough. Like really, really rough, but put it together in the second half of the season. Bailey Ober, Cy Young, 3.34 with a 1.02. The wins help a lot. 4.61, 1.38 from Zebby Matthews wasn't great. Gasser was pretty good, and Joey Estes is pretty good in his last year with us. 3.38 with a 1.21 whip. Lineup was I had Max Schumann down or up for a little while in this season. He had 299 with a 371 on base as a platoon bat. Or a utility guy, because he can play just about every position. Hernandez was also up 273, 347 on base for him. Very, very good season from those two who got sent down. Evan Carter didn't really get much shots. He was kind of the odd man out. I considered trading him. He's just going to walk in free agency. Didn't get anything for him. I'm not going to be able to bring him back. Weston Wilson, 320 in this season with 275 at-bats, 386 on base. Was fantastic. Vientos ended up looking like a pretty good trade piece, 281 with a 353 on base. I'm glad we got him for Beto, because that also opened up the spot for Bailey Ober to pitch. Daniel Susak didn't play. Denzel Clark, 214, 117 at-bats. Still ended up with positive WAR because of that 1,000 fielding percentage. Something I want to see him continue. I need him to develop this bat so we can actually see him play, but he won't play for a while yet. Jacob Wilson, another kind of disappointing year. 162 hits, 254, 298 on base percentage. This is the guy that we're supposed to be building this team around. He's not really performing like it. Herrera is instead 323 with 24 home runs and 91 RBIs. Xavier Edwards, 294, 11 home runs, 65 RBIs. He will be leaving in free agency. Soderstrom, 288, 33 home runs and 96 RBIs for the first baseman who puts up almost another 900 OPS season with a total of 3.9 WAR. Geloff was kind of weak, but still did 265, 18 home runs. I wasn't really a big fan of him. Lawrence Butler, 247, 20 home runs. Wasn't really a big fan of his season either. Jesus Sanchez was great, though, as a platoon bat, 301, 372 on base, 13 home runs. Rooker in his last season with us, 277, 42 home runs, 110 RBIs for the guy that they got off waivers back here in 2023. He has an MVP under his belt and another fantastic year as he crosses 250 home runs in his career this season. Pedro Sanchez, 288, 22 home runs on the season for him as our DH. He will remain our DH for the rest of the time, especially now with Rooker gone at the end of this season. I think we're going to be in good shape. We are going to have to replace Xavier Edwards, Evan Carter, and Brent Rooker, plus having to replace in the pitching rotation Bailey Ober and Joey Estes. We're basically going to be trying to do something, and Mason Miller, trying to kind of restart this team again. I like the idea of doing it. I think it makes a lot of sense. So let's see if we can win a World Series before that. We have to play the winner of Seattle and Detroit. We have the Seattle Mariners here in the ALDS. They have a fantastic pitching staff. We do too. Our hope is that their offense still doesn't exist for us to have a chance here to win this one. We are red hot. However, a 6-day break does ruin a lot of momentum. Bradford versus George Kirby in game 1. We do win 1-0. No offense from the Mariners is a good start. Ober, Cy Young winner versus Bryce Miller. We do lose that one 1-4. He gives up a few runs. We don't have anything going. We've scored 2 runs so far this postseason. Game 3 in Seattle. Zebby Matthews versus Brian Wu. We win that one 10-6. There's a lot more runs. We are up 2-1 against Seattle. Belozo versus George Kirby. We win. We are advancing to take on the Minnesota Twins, who, if there is a pitching staff that's even better than the Mariners, it's the Twins. They have Peralta, Ryan, Festa, Quinn Matthews. This team is a juggernaut of pitching. I'm going to actually make our rotation move. So Bradford starts this one, then Ober, then Matthews, then Belozo over Joey Estes. I'm more happy with that idea. Minnesota's a great team. We have not seen them be able to get over the hump yet. I mean, we have Bailey Ober off of them. Our hope is that he'll be able to take down Joe Ryan, but I mean, that's a crazy start to a postseason. Bradford versus Peralta in game 1. We get nothing. The Twins get a lot. They are such a good team. Ober versus Joe Ryan. We lose that one 0-2. We are on the back foot. Zebby Matthews versus David Festa. We lose that one. We might get swept by Freddie Peralta here in game 4. We get swept by the Minnesota Twins, who, like I said, this team is, I'm in AAA. This team is something special. They really have an amazing pitching staff. I cannot say anything less than that. Why is this? Oh, because they're the shape of Minnesota. As they have to take on the Dodgers. They have Freddie versus Sasaki. They lose game 1. Ryan versus Otani win game 2. Festa loses game there. Oh, maybe they won't win. Or they can come back. Oh, the Dodgers defeat the Twins in game 7 of the World Series. Otani is the World Series MVP. Postseason MVPs go to Matt Wallner of the Twins and Eloy Jimenez of the Dodgers. Eloy? Really? Okay. Unless I get these guys to sign the qualifying offers, we will be going into next season with no Mason Miller, Brent Rooker, Bailey Ober, Xavier Edwards, Evan Carter, Jesus Tinoco, Tyson Miller, or Ryan Barucki. We are going to be starting completely fresh with our new core in 2030. A big part of the decision comes from looking at the future, the next 2 years of the team, or 3 years of the team, technically, that we are going through. Right now it says Schumann should be the center fielder, but really it's probably going to be Willie. We have the guys, essentially the young core, that should be able to come up and play at each of these positions. We've got the team, we have the pitching that should be able to come up. I'm probably going to go sign some bullpen arms, but really, you know, the money should be dedicated to Jacob Wilson, Geloff, Soderstrom, Bradford, the guys that we started, Herrera, the guys that we built this team around. You can see all the guys expiring there were the guys in 2032 that I thought that's where we're going to end. And so when we get to 2032, let's hope that we can get some good production out of Willie De La Cruz and some of the guys that we've drafted and some of these players. I'm just excited to see that potential with them. The only signings I'll probably make are bullpen arms, and maybe I'll see if I can get, you know, a decent player on the edges of the roster. Starting the 2030 season, we have basically rebuilt our roster. It's not completely to the next level yet. We haven't sold out on everybody. We still are a little old. I think we're about 1 year away from being a completely new team. And part of the reason for that is that when I look at the pitching rotation, Bailey Ober signed the qualifying offer I gave him, which makes sense. I mean, it was $25 million. I understand why he took it. Rooker didn't take his, and neither did Xavier Edwards, so we lost both of them. But starting rotation is going to be the same this year. We're going to go with Beloso, Estes, and Gasser. We don't have Knack anymore. Hagenman is still here. The big difference is we went and got Luis Patino in free agency. I signed Tyson Miller back, and I got Brian Hudson in free agency. All these guys last year pitched to ERAs like below 2 and whips below 1. So, or below 3, I guess, ERAs. So fantastic players. We brought them all in. They still fulfilled our measurements in the lineup. The moves that we made is I got Yelich. Figured veteran bat for 1 year will do a decent job to replace Rooker because just in case Willie's not ready, and also once again because Denzel Clark is a massive question mark, I think. And if Willie's ready or Saldana is ready to come up partially through the season and Yelich isn't playing well, they can come up. I am fully fine with that. The other signing we went out was because I did not have a opposite batter for Geloff because he cannot hit against lefties. Went out and got Tyler Fitzgerald, who last year hit .342 with a .466 slugging percentage. Just a phenomenal player. When you put him into the RCS equation, he just rakes. He's so good in this game, and I'm glad to have him. So that's going to be our team. We're going to do this platoon again this year with Vientos at third, and with I think I had to send down Wilson because I feel like Hernandez could do the same job Wilson was doing for cheaper. I guess not really for cheaper. He's younger, so he can continue to get better, where Wilson is probably going to regress. So that's going to be the team for this year. This could probably be another just terrible start, just knowing this pitching staff. But you never know. This is the last year of Estes. I think we still have 3 years of Beloso somehow, and then last year of Ober. And then we should be able to go to our minor leagues and actually get our guys. I mean, when you look at top prospects in our system, you can see we have Santiago Aguero right there. But in our system, you got Barrett Lewis here, who should be ready soon. You have Steven Manuel, who is probably ready to come up. If he's pitching very well in the minor leagues, good chance we do bring him up. Flores isn't going to be coming anytime soon, but Vega Ramos could be coming soon, and you could also see some other starting pitchers on their way. I think Sterling is right on the cusp as well. And lineup wise, I don't think you're going to see many of the guys, but Willie De La Cruz could be here this season, and I really like his stats. This guy I'm actually excited for too, but we won't see him, so we'll see what happens this season. Anyways, we're gonna get into it, and let's check to see if we can end up making it back with a new roster. This is gonna be the last draft I think we're gonna go in depth into, and that's because I think after this one, no players that we end up drafting are going to be able to contribute to a team that already has an incredibly deep farm system. Now, the top guy in this draft is going to be this first baseman, Alexander Anderle, from Canada, and I really think he's really, really good, though we will not be able to get him. We have pick 28. Now, the benefit to this draft, and why I didn't do Discovery as much in this one, because I wanted to make sure to get as many guys as possible, is we have a lot of compensatory picks for getting guys either in award positions for Gold Gloves and all that, but also for getting players in positions to get signed by other teams, qualifying offers and such, with Rooker and Xavier Edwards being great examples of this. So we will have a lot of picks in this draft. And my dream pick, doubt he'll be there, is Joe Sheely. Look at the contact stats and the vision and discipline for this catcher. While I necessarily don't need it, it's still going to be, a phenomenal catcher. You want to have that. But if I don't, there's a shortstop here, Guillermo Rosado from the Dominican Republic, who also has a lot of the same traits. I think the guy with those traits that we're most likely to be able to get is going to be Mike Boyd, and I'm hoping he's there. He was kind of a sneaky little, didn't look like this when I scouted him at first. If he does look like this when we get him, he could be in our outfield in 2 seasons. Not a single guy that I really want is still here. Most of my top guys on my board, Marcel Snowden, number 5 on my board, is already gone. And so I'm looking around at the players that I could get. I could get this Richard Shibuya here, Robert Schaefer here. But the one I think I want is somebody who I didn't even put on my draft board at all. That's Roderick Mendoza, which, if he is what he looks like to me, is going to be a stud. Now, 45% motivation means I'm going to have to focus and try to make sure I get other guys that have higher motivation later in the draft, because I'm drafting so many guys, I'm not going to be able to get them all. This guy should be a really good pitcher no matter what. Welcome to the team, Roderick Mendoza. But this year, without having Rooker or Miller or Xavier Edwards to help really, dominate, we are in second place in the AL West, catching up as the Mariners are on a slide right now, so we might be able to take the division lead very, very soon. We are still going to be in good position to make the playoffs, but also Seattle's a good team, so it's expected that they might make the playoffs once they settle their own ship. For All-Stars, I see no green on there, but we still have some. Bailey Ober is an All-Star at starting pitcher. It has a 2.98 ERA at this point in the season. Mason Miller did get an All-Star. He's on Seattle for that. And surprisingly, Herrera's not an All-Star, which is unique to, I guess, our position. We've never really been in a position where he hasn't gotten it. And so our only All-Star is Bailey Ober. And I think we hit pretty well. Roderick Mendoza, 88 potential. Sadly, he's a 62 overall, so we won't see him. But then we hit 88 potential on Richard Shibuya with actually pretty good stats for a righty bat. Could end up actually making it up maybe in 2 seasons. Alejandro Santos won't make it up, but could be traded. Aaron Warren was a miss, but whatever. And Franklin Wood was a big hit here late in that. Took a swing on a guy, missed on that one. Good contact, but D potential means he's not really going to be anything. Alan Wiley, good swing, hit on that one. And actually, Oliva looked like a really, really good player, but you can't get all these guys. You don't have the time. Joe Shealy was really good. Baltimore got the guy who was number 1 on my board and number 7 on my board in this draft. Really, really good for them. Both those players look really good. Going into the month of September, we have taken the lead in the AL West, but we've lost 5 straight to allow Seattle to catch right back up to us here. This is going to be a battle for the end of the season to see who wins the West, because I don't think either of us will really have a good shot of making the wild card. Maybe one of us could. And maybe, the Red Sox, Yankees, and the Orioles could sabotage each other by all being very, very good, where it's at least just us and the Mariners. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the season. But I don't necessarily know if we'll be able to do it. I think I'm going to call up Nathaniel Reynolds. Maybe Nick. Maybe Kurtz could come up finally. That might be what I do, because I think Kurtz is going to have to be up next year. I think if there was ever a season to signify how valuable Brent Rooker was to this team, it's this one. 87-75. We do win our division, taking on the Yankees in the division series. That's a 22-game difference from last year after losing Brent Rooker. And it looks like we're lucky. We tied the Mariners, just getting out over them. They have to do the wild card game against the Tigers, which good luck to them. And then we have to take on the Yankees. So the question is whether or not this team is really capable. We do not have a very strong offense, but it's not like we are bad. It's just we're not as good as we have been the last couple years. Ivan Herrera wins the batting title this season, though. Cal Raleigh gets the MVP. The Seattle Mariners, 43 home runs on the year. Adley Rutschman in second for the Detroit Tigers. In the Cy Young race, Garrett Crochet wins another one. There's no Mariners, or no A's in his way this time around. David Shields in second. Second round pick in 2024 gets that. But 232 strikeouts, 274 ERA. Crochet, phenomenal year. And Herrera got it over Luis Arias, beating him out this year for 321 average. When it comes to the NL side, Shohei Ohtani wins the MVP. Once again, 287, 37 home runs, 117 RBIs, beating out O'Neal Cruz. And the Cy Young, also Shohei Ohtani. League leaders, Ivan Herrera led in batting average, and that's about it. We had the batting title from Ivan Herrera, who hit 324, beating out Luis Arias' 321. Hits leader, Ha-Seong Kim of the Seattle Mariners had 195 hits, tied with Luis Arias. If they have Mason Miller, Kim, Raleigh in the MVP, I am afraid of that Mariners team. Home runs leader is Cal Raleigh with 43, and RBIs was Adley Rutschman. Saves leader in the AL was Tony Santillan of the Orioles with 57 saves. ERA leader was David Santos of the Royals with a 2.57 ERA. And your strikeout leader, Garrett Crochet, predictably with a 2.32. 232, and Strider right behind him with 228. In the NL, William Contreras led the way with a 358 batting average for the catcher now with the Phillies. When it comes to hits, leader was 195, also William Contreras. In home run leader, O'Neal Cruz with 41, and RBI leader, Shohei with 117 over Corbin Carroll. Saves leader in the NL, 61 saves, one short of the record. Matt Brash had led the way for the Cincinnati Reds. That team must be really, really good if he did that. Shohei Ohtani led the way with 2.51 ERA right over Chase Burns' 2.57. And your strikeout leader, Chase Burns, with 202. So Reds must be very, very good. Hagenman gets sent down again, though. 2.42 ERA and a 1 whip is a phenomenal season for him. Once again, he's a really, really good find. If you're using my roster, apparently Hagenman is amazing. I don't remember making this dude this good, but he is amazing. So part of that is how great he was. Tyson Miller, 2.47, another good season from him with a 101 whip. Finally breaks the 1 that he had held below for the last couple of years, but he's still really, really good. Luis Patino was not necessarily a good signing. I guess that was more of a fluke year. I shouldn't have really bet on that. We'll probably move off of him in the offseason because a negative 0.8 WAR is terrible in your bullpen. Daniel Lynch, 307 with a 110. Zebby Matthews didn't really play enough to get a sample size. Hoeing 344 with a 109 whip. And then Hudson 230 with a 107. And Edwin Uceda 280, 118 with 43 saves on the year. He's probably going to regress next season because of the C potential rating. But whatever. Cody Bradford had a 334 with 118 whip. Bailey Ober 338 with a 113. Belozo, good again, 354 with a 118. Joey Estes was not good. That's his last year with us. And Robert Gasser, 423 with a 144. I don't know if I'm going to pay him arbitration because he hasn't really shown me much either. Maybe I will. Maybe we can get him for cheap, but he'll probably go to the bullpen here. I don't even know if I'll keep Zebby. I probably will, but Zebby hasn't really shown me much either. It's probably just time to bring up Manuel and Russ and all of the guys we've drafted. Daniel Hernandez or Daryl Hernandez. Have I been calling him Daniel the whole time? Whatever. Hernandez got sent down, 236 average, 322 on base in the 42 games. I guess he wasn't able to recreate the production that I thought that Weston Wilson had. Robert Poussin, also bad. He came up for a good portion of the season. Not good production there. Tyler Fitzgerald was a terrible signing, it looks like. Below 800 OPS. 0.7 WAR. That's a really bad signing to have, spend a lot of money on. And then Denzel Clark was actually decent this year, though. So Denzel Clark might be able to go out in the outfield. It's not great. Like, this is not good, but when he's providing as much as he is defensively that it's okay, I guess. He can still stay on the team. Daniel Susek, 292, 3 home runs. At catcher with a 359 on base. We have the catcher position down. We just don't have anything else. Yelich, 255, 15 home runs for us in the DH role this year. Ends up probably finishing his career with 2,600 hits, 528 doubles, 363 home runs, and a career WAR of 71.7, as I doubt he'll get signed by anybody else. Wilson, 269, 14 home runs. Herrera, 324, 21 home runs and 158 hits. I had Susek up this year, so he did actually get some rest. He didn't play 162 games, so he didn't get a chance of getting over 200 hits again. That's what happens if you don't give them backups. 226, 25 home runs from Soderstrom. Big regression across the board from our first baseman. Massive regression. He was in the 900s. He's down to a 700 OPS and a negative WAR out of nowhere. A terrible year for Soderstrom. Pedro Sanchez hit 307 with 20 home runs. I'd love to see that. Jesus Sanchez, 284 with 14 home runs. Vientos hit 232 with 23 homers. Geloff had 243 with 25 homers, so pretty good year from Geloff. Almost an 800 OPS for him this season, and 4.5 WAR, one of his best years. His potential went down Lawrence Butler, 265 with 27 home runs. I believe that means it's probably his best year with us. Actually, no, 2028 was a little bit better. But still, we had some guys have their best seasons and some guys fall completely off the map this year. Let's see if we can overcome the faults of kind of a bad year for us here in 2030 and get past the New York Yankees here in the wild card round. And so Cody Bradford versus Alcantara, Bailey Ober versus Matt Manning, and then Valente Beloso versus Will Warren here for the 3-game series in Vegas against the Yankees. We'll fix that. We win 4-2. Cody Bradford takes out Alcantara and the Yankees. In Game 2, Ober versus Matt Manning. We win that one. We will be advancing to take Baltimore on here in the ALDS. In this series, I would expect we're probably underdogs. They seem to have a really, really good roster. So we'll see if we can overcome. Valente Beloso versus Grayson Rodriguez in Game 1. We win that one. Joey Estes versus Mitch Keller. We lose that one. Tyson Miller gets blown up. That's a big ERA. He gave up probably a lot in that one. It's Tigers Royals in the other game, but probably 4 runs there in the 8th, I think. Miller blows the game in Game 2. Robert Gasser versus Povich in Game 3. Not a good look. Miller might have just ruined this by doing that. Maybe Bradford and Ober can overcome. Bradford versus Peter Sato. We win that one. Down to Bailey Ober versus Grayson Rodriguez. In Game 5, we advance to take on the Detroit Tigers in the ALCS. We have Beloso versus Reagans, Estes versus Singer, and Gasser versus Jackson Jobe. But Valente Beloso versus Cole Reagans in Game 1 gets the victory. We win a bullpen game over Bo Bresky. Joey Estes versus Brady Singer in Game 2. We take both games here in... this is a home series because we did win our division and they're a wildcard team. So both games in Vegas, we win. Going to Detroit, we just got to probably take one game off of them to feel confident. Gasser versus Jackson Jobe. We lose that one. Bradford versus Cole Reagans. We win. We are up 3-1. Ober versus Michael Ellis. We lose. Just got to win one game here in Vegas. Beloso versus Singer. We lose that one. Down to Game 7. Oh no, we blew a 3-1 lead to Detroit. We threw a 3-1 lead to Detroit. Had a really good shot of going back to the World Series. Was unable to do so. Detroit is going to take on the Dodgers 2 days later. Reagans wins that one. They win 2 games in LA. Game 3, lose Game 4, lose Game 5, lose Game 6. No, they blew a 3-0 lead. The Dodgers win again. If you're going to blow a 3-0 lead, then why did it have to be to the Dodgers? Spencer Horwitz wins World Series MVP. Rowdy Tellez was the playoff MVP for the Detroit Tigers, and Horwitz was the one for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are playing my game. They're grabbing guys that I like, and it hurts so much to watch them do this because it means that they truly aren't making mistakes. You need the Dodgers to make mistakes in order to really have a shot against them. 2031, you have watched a team deconstruct itself from what it was originally as a contender into a much cheaper variation of itself as we want to finally see what we got out of the guys that we've been drafting. Jared Russ is coming up, Barrett Lewis is coming up, Stephen Manuel is coming up, finally bringing up Mitch Spence, and there's a chance for other guys to come up too, Ben Vega Ramos, John Sterling, Robbie Flores, we're probably, Beloso's gone at the end of the year, and all this, and I think there's a big chance we move a lot of guys, especially if we're not competitive. And in the lineup, same thing. I signed nobody. In fact, I traded away Tyler Fitzgerald because I just wanted to make sure I could do something. And I got a AAA third baseman who might be able to take the spot of Vientos next year because we never really drafted a third baseman over this time period. And so we're going to see Nathaniel Reynolds this season. Nick Kurtz is finally going to get his shot to come up and actually play again now. And Willie De La Cruz is going to come up and play this season. And so we're really going to see everybody who we have had get their shots to play, really see if we can get something productive out of any of them. This will be Sanchez's last year here. Then we'll be able to move up. I don't know. We could bring up Saldana, or we could bring up any of the other outfielders that we have. We've got Steven Oka, who we drafted in the first draft, I think, who's on their way still. We got a lot of prospects in the top 100, including Franklin Wood, who's apparently the number 1 guy. But Santiago Guerrero could come up soon. We could bring up Aubrey Hendrickson this year. Derek Oakley could come up at some point this year. A lot of guys who could. It's all dependent if we're competitive. If we are competitive and Soderstrom puts it back together and Geloff has a good year and Jacob Wilson has a good year and Herrera is Ivan Herrera and we're competitive, you don't have to think about it. But for now, if we're not, that's the big question. In addition, I am automating drafts. We're not going to watch them anymore. We are just going to let the CPU do it so that we can go the last 2 seasons knowing that this is the team. These are the players. The guys you've watched us draft are now going to get their opportunities to see if we can compete with them on top of the Moneyball roster we had originally built. See you at the All-Star break. Well, that's going to hurt the chances of competing. Maybe we sell off. Good thing I have a boatload of catchers to use. At the All-Star break, we're 48-48, and somehow that's enough to be leading the AL West. The Mariners, no matter how stacked their roster are 43-54. And we don't have really anything special to really say, oh my God, this team is in good shape, because we're not. We don't have any bullpen arms that are doing anything, and without Herrera, there's a good chance we spiral out of control. Jacob Wilson's an all-star. We'll take that at shortstop, but, this team really doesn't have much going for it without Herrera. Since Herrera went down, I think we've lost 12 out of the last 14 games. So holding on to the top spot, very unlikely. And with a month left in the season, we are 70-67, leading the division because the division is awful. We're not good, but our division's worse. I mean, the offense seems to be okay when you compare it to the division. It's just the pitching has not been as good, which makes sense. We've got like a ton of rookies in the rotation. 83-79, we win the division. We will be taking on the Rays in the division series. Jack Caglione wins the MVP, hitting .295 for 41 home runs and 134 RBIs for the Kansas City Royals, beating out Jazz Chisholm, now with the Orioles, and Tom Myers with the Blue Jays. Cy Young goes to Freddie Peralta of the Minnesota Twins on the AL side. On the NL side, Brent Rooker wins. That makes me sad. Maybe I should have kept him. Wins MVP with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Oh, we should have kept him around. He was actually bad last year, so it's crazy that he was able to put this together here. Wins MVP in the National League, and Shane McClanahan wins another Cy Young with the Diamondbacks. League leaders, Luis Garcia led the way in the AL with a .320 batting average for the Tampa Bay Rays. Hits leader was Ronald Acuna now with the Detroit Tigers. 191 hits, beats out Bobby Witt. Your home run leader, Jazz Chisholm, had 45 home runs to lead the way in the AL. And RBIs was Jack Caglione. Saves leader was Orion Keckering of the White Sox with 49 saves on the season. ERA leader was Jackson Joe with a .233 for the Detroit Tigers, and your strikeout leader, Freddie Peralta, with 222. Your batting title in the NL goes to Ernest Rodriguez, a first-round pick in 2027 for the San Diego Padres. Really, really good for them to get him. Xavier Edwards was second with the Washington Nationals. He led in hits with 211 hits for the Padres. When it comes to doubles, it was Terang, and home runs, Brent Rooker and Junkenzie Noel lead the way with 39 home runs in the NL, and Junior Caminero of the Diamondbacks leads the way in RBIs with 120. Saves leader is Dan Pappas of the Colorado Rockies, 54 saves on the season for him. Chase Dollander led the way in the ERA race with a .249 for the Colorado Rockies. That should be like Cy Young caliber. I know he didn't win it. And your strikeout leader, Carl Azzopardi of the San Francisco Giants, first-round pick in 2025. Zebby Matthews got sent down, 4.15 ERA, 1.45 WHIP. I mean, we talked about maybe not even having him play this year. I kept him around because I didn't want to start 4 rookies. And so we started 3, and we'll keep him around again because he's got to be better than that. It's still a positive WAR. Hagenman gets sent down again, 2.89, 107 WHIP. Really, really good. He's a reliever. He's not a starter. But it's still interesting. He never really developed his stamina. So he is just a reliever. No bullpen arms got sent down. So in the MLB, Barrett Lewis 4.77 with a 1.41. In his rookie season, not great. Hoeing 2.51 with a .88. Spence wasn't very good for us once we actually brought him up. 4.39 with a 1.39. Aubrey Hendrickson should play next year. I brought him up at in September, 3rd round pick in 2025. I think he'll just be one of our closers next year. Tyson Miller, 194 with a .85. Hudson, 2.8 with a 1.3. And Edwin Uceda, 3.9 with a 1.23. I mentioned I thought he was going to regress this year. He did. It just potential rating. Cody Bradford, amazing season from him. He has dropped down to an 80 overall, though. 2.84 ERA, 1.17 whip on the season for him with 127 strikeouts. Valente Beloso, 3.48 with a 1.31 whip on the season for him. Then Jared Russ, 3.84 with a 1.32. Pretty good for a rookie season. 7-16. Did not win games when he came out there. And Steven Manuel, 4.03 with a 1.19 on the season. Tino Gutierrez, the third baseman I traded Tyler Fitzgerald for, ended up with a 3.33 average in only 19 games, but really good. He should be a starting third baseman next year for us. Look at the stats. Really, really nice to see. Johnny McCann, thought about bringing up, didn't end up keeping him up. Denzel Clark, 231, 283, ends up with positive WAR again. Still has never committed an error in his entire career, but just isn't really anything special, essentially, is the problem there. Offensively, Lawrence Butler, 253, 16 home runs. He's regressing down to a 749 OPS, 1.8 WAR. Vientos, 242 with 11 home runs. I thought I could recreate the 2026 version of him. We kind of got that in 2029, but that was a very small sample size, and we never really, it was a risk. It opened up the spot, but it really kind of was a bad decision. Zach Geloff, terrible year for him. That's one WAR, but bad year. Hernandez wasn't really good this year either. Susak, got a lot of opportunities because Herrera was out, and he wasn't bad, but it wasn't, it's hard to replace Ivan Herrera. Pedro Sanchez, 292, 22 home runs on the season for him. Little regression against righties, fantastic against lefties this year, 22 home runs. He played right field all year this year, and wasn't too bad defensively. Jacob Wilson, 271 with 23 home runs on the season for him. Von Herrera in his injured season, 91 overall as he regressed a little bit. Still 101 hits in 96 games, so pretty good for him, 285 this year. Much of a down year, but injuries hurt. Nathaniel Reynolds in his rookie year hit 285, 8 home runs on the season. The slugging percentage is really, really low. He should be hitting more home runs, but he wasn't on the season. Still 4 WAR as he's a good defensive second baseman. Kurtz, 257, 20 home runs. I like that. I'm glad that he did something, but still negative WAR from him. It's just disappointing. You would have thought you would have got a lot more from him. Sanchez, 271, 334 in his last season with us. Soderstrom down to 272 as he continues to regress. It was a little bit of a better season than he was last year. Maybe this is a fluke, but I'm afraid of this season. This scares me. So Willie De La Cruz, 288, 3 home runs in his rookie year. That was pretty good. So the rookies, De La Cruz and Reynolds were good. I actually like the guys we brought up, and I think the guys we'll bring up next year are going to be good too. It's just a question of what guys do we keep around. Wilson, Herrera, I think it's time for Geloff to go, Vientos to go. I could move off Lawrence Butler. We could go into this last year with a truly just brand new roster. We have Tampa Bay and Hunter Green here in the wild card to start off, then Johnny Mock and Jordan Hicks. Cody Bradford's going to take game 1 against Hunter Green. We win 7-2. Beloso versus Johnny Mock in game 2. We lose that one. Game 3, rookie Jared Russ versus Jordan Hicks. The rookie is unable to do it. We lose to the Tampa Bay Rays. The Brewers defeat the Royals in the 2031 World Series in 7 games. When it comes to the award winner, Jefferson Cuero gets the World Series MVP at catcher, hitting .429. Luis Arias was the American League postseason MVP. And Arnold Creech, first-round pick in 2025, was the postseason MVP for the Milwaukee Brewers. And so here we are, team fully deconstructed. Cody Bradford in his last year, Herrera in his last year, Lawrence Butler in his last year. I don't think I've ever done this, but what that means is that we are actually back to being around budget. Yay! I could just trade Quintillo and we'd be there, but whatever. I also know that, realistically, inflation, maybe we wouldn't be. So, I'm not that worried about it. Essentially, we are back within budget. It just took 5 years. And the question is, could we still compete? We're the #1 contact team. We don't have a lot of pitching. And that's because, look at all the rookies. We have every single guy up. I've made moves to make sure I could just fill this entire team with just rookies. We have guys we drafted in 2026. We've got guys we've drafted in Russ in 2025, 2027 first round pick, 2025 second round pick. Ben Vega Ramos was a third round pick in 2027. First round pick in 2027. Third round there. I already said him. Third round in 2025. I didn't draft this guy. I made some trades for those guys. That's the pitching rotation. When it comes to the lineup, I haven't fixed it yet, but I brought up Saldana. Why not? Munoz, 4th round pick in 2026. Let's do that. Oka, 2nd round pick in 2027. Let's try him out. Let's try everybody out. Why not? Let's just see what we have in the rookies. Because if you were to think about it this way, we are setting up the GM that's going to take over for me in the future with another young core to build a future Moneyball team around. Let's just see what we're giving him in 1 year. Well, that'll get you under budget real quick. I think with 3 months out for almost the whole season, maybe we'll just cut him and say, look at that, we are then under $72 million. That's a great way to start. And at the All-Star break, one of the youngest teams in Major League Baseball is 57-40, second place in the AL West with a fantastic slugging on base ERA. Look at these guys. They learned from me. They know exactly what I want. We end up being in really good spot right here. We have Ivan Herrera and Willie De La Cruz in both in all-star starters. Sorry, I brain farted there. As we have Ivan Herrera, all-star starter at catcher. Then you also have Pedro Sanchez making the all-star game at first base. Then we have anybody else. Willie De La Cruz, all-star starter at center field. But look at that. That's a great way to end up putting together this team. We have a good shot of making the playoffs here in a season where we are intentionally making this team younger and cutting salary. And with 1 month left in the season, we have taken the AL West lead. And because of that, we're also in really good position to just make the wild card. We are going to make the wild card playoffs, or at least we're going to make the playoffs no matter what, with a team that is down to a $70 million budget, and that's with 2 guys each making $20 million. 99-63, we make the playoffs and win our division, taking on the winner of the wild card playoff game. Pedro Sanchez wins the Hank Aaron Award. AL Rookie of the Year is Ben Vega Ramos, and Pedro Sanchez wins a batting title. The guys we drafted end up being studs. Ben Rice wins the MVP, hitting .256. 46 home runs, 131 RBIs for the Detroit Tigers. Jack Gaglione now with the Minnesota Twins, because of course everybody's on the Twins. Cy Young goes to George Kirby. Barrett Lewis is in 3rd on the season for us. A batting title, oh my god. Number 1, number 2, and number 3, Sanchez, Herrera, and De La Cruz. Edwin Uceta was 3rd in reliever of the year and rookie of the year, number 1, number 2, and number 3. We built a phenomenal roster of players. We drafted guys well. And so at the NL side, Brenton Doyle, now with the Brewers, wins the MVP with 38 home runs, 309. And Chase Burns wins a Cy Young for the Cincinnati Reds. Just see if anybody else that we had ends up going and winning anything. Doesn't look like it. Barrett Lewis led the league in strikeouts with 199, and Willie De La Cruz, 42 stolen bases. Sanchez had the batting title, led in hits. We had the most runs from De La Cruz, most walks from Herrera, best on base plus slugging OBP or OPS with 947 for Pedro Sanchez. Look at this young core we built. Sanchez 332, Herrera 310, Willie De La Cruz 305. Hits leaders, Sanchez in number 1, Herrera number 2. When you go look at it, we had De La Cruz a 3rd as Ronald Acuna leads in doubles with 50. Home runs, Ben Rice 46. And look, Nick Kurtz now up here, 36. We gave him the shot, and look at, he finally put it together here as soon as we got rid of Soderstrom. We end up putting it together. Ben Rice led in RBIs. And if anything could make me more proud, Ivan Herrera Pedro Sanchez, Willie De La Cruz, all in the top 5 of on-base percentage as well. Saves leader is Kyle Harrison of the Cleveland Guardians with 53 saves. ERA leader Lewis Dell of the Texas Rangers, 2.68 ERA. I remember liking him in the draft as a potential guy. Ben Vega Ramos there and that, but Barrett Lewis led in strikeouts, 199, beating out Spencer Strider by 1. Spencer Horwitz got the batting title in the NL with a 331 average for the Dodgers. Walker Jenkins led in hits with 197 for the Miami Marlins, and your home run leader, Walker Jenkins, with 43. Saves leader, Justin Martinez, 55 saves for the Diamondbacks. Your ERA leader, Hector Castro of the Chicago Cubs with a 2.65, and your strikeout leader, Chase Burns, with 218. Hagenman did get sent down again, 2.86, 107 whip. He's been phenomenal. He's the oldest guy on the roster, and he's still holding up with the rest of them. Nobody else gets sent down. When I look at the actual lineup, Santiago Aguero, 346 with 154 whip. Miguel Vizcaino, 364 with a 121. Bruce Booth, 273 with a 115. Rodrigo Cisneros, 297. You got 384 from Audrey Hendrickson, 308 from Melvin Craig. Joey Cantillo was one of the worst with a 441. And Edwin Uceda, 260, 107. We ended up getting Uceda like a ton of career saves, over 300 saves with us in his career. Ben Vega Ramos, 324, 134 whip for the lefty. Third round pick from 2026. Jared Russ, 346 with a 124 whip. Barrett Lewis, 338 with a 131. Stephen Manuel was one of the worst ones, a 460, 152 whip for him. But I think he's actually at his peak, if I recall. And so that can explain it. John Sterling, 292 with a 113 whip on the season for him. I did call up Alan Morey, the guy we drafted in the 3rd round, who was like that just swing, like, let's just see what he could become. That was like a really high stat and had nothing else to him. Look, he had 6 at-bats. He had 2 hits, 4 walks. Love to see that. He did get sent down. Poisson got sent down as well, 226, 298 for him. I didn't think I had Ostrander ever come up on the season. So in the major leagues, Edmundo Saldana hit 215 at-bats, small sample size, 308 for Leo Munoz, the 4th round pick from 2026. Not a large sample size. Denzel Clark, 271 with 5 home runs and 40 RBIs. And then in the lineup, Jacob Wilson, 16 home runs, 253, 166 hits on the season for him. Pedro Sanchez, 332, 30 home runs, 196 hits in 144 games, by the way. So if he plays 162, that's a significant amount larger for him. Ivan Herrera, 310 with 23 home runs. Nick Kurtz, 289, 36 home runs, 111 RBIs, as he finally puts it together over 800 OPS. Tino Gutierrez was the one guy we didn't draft, and he kind of was the worst guy in the lineup. So, signs that I'm better at drafting. Willie De La Cruz, 18 home runs, 305, 88 RBIs for him. Lawrence Butler, 249, 15 home runs in what is his last season in Las Vegas. Steven Oka, 276, 8 home runs for him. He was the 2nd round pick in 2027. And Nathaniel Reynolds, 237, 16 home runs, 74 RBIs for our 1st round pick in 2025. I think it was our 2nd 1st round pick in 2025. Both picks in 2025 end up being really, really good. And Willie De La Cruz, our pick in 2026, was good. Like, what a great, I guess, capstone to this. Every single player that we drafted, we brought into the lineup, and this is a playoff team. What can they do, though? And so we have the Kansas City Royals to take on with our new young, just fun little A's team here. The cheap back to playing Moneyball roster right here. Kansas City does have a really good team. They no longer have Jack Caglione, though, so they don't have their big star anymore. Ben Vega Ramos versus David Shields. In the first game, we win 8-5. Game 2, Jared Russ versus David Santos. We do lose, so we lose 1 game in Vegas. Here in Kansas City, in Game 3, Barrett Lewis versus Ben Cadruna. We win that one up 2-1. Stephen Manuel versus Fernando Santiago, a guy I would have loved to have drafted. In Game 4, we take them down. We will be going to the ALCS to take on the Detroit Tigers. John Sterling is going to start game 1. I don't care which guys start. They're all good. I think Manuel is the worst one. And that's crazy because I think he's the first round pick of them all. John Sterling in game 1 versus Michael Ellis wins 10-3. Game 2, Ben Vega Ramos versus Gilberto Gutierrez. We win game 2. Both games in Vegas are victorious. Can we win a game in Detroit? Jared Russ versus Brady Singer. We win up 3-0. Barrett Lewis versus Jackson Jobe. We lose game 4. Manuel wins, and we will be taking on the Brewers in the World Series. John Sterling versus Chase Dolander. Let's actually take a look at that roster, because I'll be curious to see what Milwaukee has in store, because it's been so long. Dylan Cruz, Brenton Doyle. Look at that outfield. Oh my God. Jesus Mate. They have Dolander, Keller. Oh my God. This team is phenomenal. Okay. Yeah. David versus Goliath, I guess. I wonder what their payroll is. We are taking them on. John Sterling versus Chase Dolander in game 1. We lose 3-6. Game 2 here in Vegas. Vega Ramos versus Mitch Keller. We take that one. We need to take a game off of them here in Milwaukee. Jared Russ versus Franklin Caldwell. We lose the first one. Joey Cantillo does not get the victory there. Down 2-1. Barrett Lewis versus Quinn Priester. We win. It is a 2-2 series. Stephen Manuel versus Chase Dolander. Oh, we lose 3-12. John Sterling versus Mitch Keller in game 6. We are defeated by the Brewers in 6 games. But what a run for this young core to have made it to the World Series in their first season together. Playoff MVP, Ivan Herrera, Jonathan India wins it for the Brewers. They win back-to-back World Series. Postseason MVPs for us, Herrera, Sanchez, and Wilson. Cruz, Doyle, and Jesus Mate. I mean, that's an insane team. That's so good. I can't believe that it took them that long to build that team together. But yep, that's it. I don't think I'm going any further. I really love that we got to see this team become something. The players that we drafted actually got a chance to perform and play. And it's crazy that the guys that I drafted ended up outperforming most of the guys that are actually on there. And so, what a way to cap it off. I hope you really enjoyed part 2 and how long this ends up being. Because you get the little like breakdown of everything, and then you get the simulation of what the best team would be. But apparently we're the best team, so it don't matter. We do it. I'm glad that we were able to do this too, because I think by deconstructing, it shows that like you can do this at any point. Yes, when we went for it with the whole core, we never actually got over the hump again with the full team being paid. When you shrink that team down to play them at their core, getting all the way here is crazy to see. Anyways, thank you very much. That was Moneyball Part 2. Adios.
Go home, get drunk, go sleep, wake up.